Welcome along to the Matchbook NFL podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Hussey, and joined by a regular duo this season of Brad Allen and Judah Fortgang, trying to give you as many bets as possible, as close to the Sunday of week six this week. Insights.matchbook.com. There'll also be a recap of the guys' picks. And if you take 2 seconds wherever you're watching or listening to hit that follow, subscribe button, it helps our content get out to a wider audience. Brad, start with you. Maybe even picking up the Texans Ravens. Like, these NFL markets are the most efficient probably in the world. I'd even surpass that from the Premier League that we have here. Yet they aren't efficient sometimes. And like, take that Texans Ravens example. You can in real time have an impact there. And maybe, as Judah's been saying for too long now, maybe backing those tails and tops can really impact your betting at the end of the season.
Yeah, there's long been this efficient market hypothesis debate, isn't there? But I think it is clearly sometimes the line is just wrong. And watching that live, the Texans just did whatever they wanted, and you could reasonably say that line should have been 21.5. So the line, the closing line was probably 20 points wrong. And so I think the lesson is maybe thinking about where models are wrong, because every model I looked at, whether it was Action Network have guys, Derek Cartier has models, people like that. Everyone was going, oh, there must be value on the Ravens. Like, it can't be a 9-point downgrade or whatever it was. But if you strip out your 8 best players and 6 All Pros or whatever, like, just a model cannot keep up. So that is spots like that, which maybe it's weather where it's like 30-mile-an-hour wind, maybe it's injuries, whatever it might be. That where a model might be wrong is probably when you want to be looking at tails.
Yeah, Judah, and maybe an example of, say, Thursday night football. Is that an example where you couldn't really tell real time? Or, I don't know, like, looking at that, watching the highlights this morning, we knew a lot of that stuff, that maybe Giants were too big a price on the money line. You could play tails in that game. I know you didn't. So looking back, was that a missed opportunity, or did we just not know enough before last night, as an example?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, in some ways it's a missed opportunity that, like, Jackson Dart played his best game by far, and the Eagles to this point had not been playing to a team that should be 7.5-point favorites against anyone. I mean, this is they can't get their offense going, and they're relying on turnovers early in the season. So in some senses, yes, it's a missed opportunity. You always want to be ahead of the market, and like, just because Jackson Dart had a bad 2 games doesn't mean he would have a bad third. Also, the Eagles dealt with some injuries mid-game there. Quinyon Mitchell going down was a pretty big deal. But by the same token, it's the other side, which is like, yes, the NFL is unpredictable, but that's kind of the point. It's unpredictable, and there are tails, but sometimes Jackson Dart's just going to come out and have a huge game, and that's kind of baked into the price. And we can't just always say, like, oh, things are so inefficient that we're able to kind of bet it. It's kind of the magic is finding those spots to be able to tease out the signal from the noise. But it's a great reminder of, like, any one game, anything can happen. We should have a lot of humility, especially we're still early in the season. Like, I think we like to assume that certain teams, where they are in week 5, like, we have a good read on them. That's what they'll be for the rest of the season. That's not always the case. We're still learning. Teams are changing. Like, the Bears were 4-2 last year, and ended the season, and like, we're power rated like middle of the pack, and ended the season as one of the worst teams in the NFL. Like, this happens all the time.
Yeah, the best thing about Thursday night football was Russell Wilson coming in for 2 snaps and literally getting booed out of the stadium. It was one of the funniest things, if you haven't had a chance to watch on YouTube. Yeah, but yeah, a reminder from Brad and Judah: pick your battles there. There are potential opportunities, but of course there isn't going to be those 5 or 6 ones per week, for example, maybe one a week max. Before we get going, our most generous offer at the moment, and it's currently exclusive to podcast listeners. If you haven't got a Matchbook account, you can bet NFL markets on using our exchange pricing, but also getting the benefits of a bet builder as well. You can bet builders and singles for all the prop markets, but also build up your bet as well, as many as possible. Plenty of offers on site, but new customer offer, POD50. Enter that bonus code POD50 and get £50 worth in free bets when you bet £50. Judah, let's start with the Rams at the Ravens. So it's a good segue into this game. Is this line wrong again? And how do you try and price up the Ravens? I mean, I was took by your line last week, saying at the moment, last week that is, they were the 32nd best defense in football. Where are they right now?
Yeah, I mean that even had maybe a Kyle Hamilton playing, which I think is true this week. Yeah, I think this is a disaster of a defense right now. And I mean Marlon Humphrey returned to practice, but they were reporting that as a multi-week injury last week. I don't see this as a team right now that is even close to where they should be from a health perspective. And it is just, if you looked at like their PFF grades, for example, it's a sea of red. They have no pass rush. The numbers look terrible. It's like Nate Wiggins is the only healthy cornerback on this team. It's a weak link system, and you now go up. They're for whatever reason are not really changing up their kind of coverage schemes. They're playing a lot of man coverage still, even though they're very, very hurt, and that's just going to make it more of a talent battle. And if you're giving me Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams against what's left of this Ravens secondary, I'm going to take the Rams here, and I'm more than happy to kind of lay the points, seeing as I think the Rams are going to be able to score and score in bunches. They've also been very pass heavy this season, really reliant on Stafford and are scoring points in bunches. And on the other side of the ball, it's not as though you can just kind of assume. First off, Derrick Henry outside of the Week 1 game against Buffalo, which now looks like Buffalo just has the worst run defense in football. It's not as though you can just take the dominant Baltimore run game without Lamar Jackson and just institute that with Cooper Rush. It's not at all. I mean, like the threat of the Lamar run does so much for the Baltimore ground game, which is to say, like, I don't think this is a great spot for them to get going. And Cooper Rush is just, you can't operate the same offense that Baltimore's been running with Cooper Rush. He's a guy who needs to get rid of the ball. It's super quick to have any sort of success. He had the quickest time to throw of anyone last year with Dallas. And this is not a Baltimore team that has a bunch of quick separators. I mean, Zay Flowers wins downfield. He's a great first option, but beyond that, they just don't have guys that can separate so quickly, which is what I think Cooper Rush needs to succeed. And if Cooper Rush is holding onto the ball for a couple of seconds, the Baltimore offensive line has been a quiet train wreck this year. And again, Ronnie Stanley missed last week. Unclear what he'll do, but he has not been the same player himself. And this is a LA pass rush that I think should have its way with Baltimore. So you add it all up, I don't think the market is properly caught up to the current state of the Ravens defense, and even for the Ravens offense for that matter, with Cooper Rush in there.
And very quickly before I bring Brad in, it's -7.5. That's the line. Are you yourself personally going to tail that up, or is there a certain point where you go, you know what, I'm happy with the -7.5?
I'm happy with the -7.5 here. Yeah. I mean, sure, they can win in multiple scores, but I don't think that looking at the pricing, there's too much value there.
Yeah, because the line obviously given what was 2.5 last week, for example. Brad, any thoughts on fading the Ravens again?
Yeah, I quite like going under the team total as well. Partially looking at the weather. Yeah, under the Ravens team total. Just looking at the weather, there's radars. It's a little bit dodgy 2 days out still, but it's looking like up to 25 mile an hour gusts, some rain, and then fairly steady winds as well. And then, I think that one of the key matchups is this Rams defensive line, third in Brandon Thorne's rankings against this Ravens offensive line, which is banged up, is 31st in sacks allowed. As Judah says, an offense designed for a completely different quarterback. So kind of those three factors together, and you can get under 17.5, under 18.5, a reasonable juice. So that could be like an alternative or an addition as well, I think.
Yeah, given the line's quite high, a good way maybe to get in on the Ravens there and taking them on the under team total. Brad, we'll stick with you for Seattle at the Jags. Seattle were in an absolute epic against Baker Mayfield. Don't know how they didn't cover the -3.5, let alone win the game or lose in that dramatic fashion. And then Jags had a great win Monday Night Football. So there's a lot. I find there's a lot with these two teams to try and decide exactly where they are heading into this game. Where are you at?
Well, the Seahawks lost that game because I think they had 2 turnovers to 0. But they won the metrics slightly by around 3 points based on the adjusted scores. But obviously the defense was super banged up and is still fairly banged up. I think there's 5 starters on the injury report. So if you want to bet Seattle on the money line, I think you've just got to wait a bit longer and see who's actually playing in the game. But the way I would like to attack here is the Seattle team total over around 23.5, 1.9 is around there. So Darnold is leading the entire league in quarterback EPA per play somehow. And, you know, they're throwing deep. They're like top 5 in explosive percentage. And then we have a look at this Jaguars defense, which I think they have 16 turnovers through 5 games. And if you strip the turnovers out, which most people will know are a bit more volatile, the success rate is mid-pack. And last week, that final score against the Chiefs was one of the most misleading you'll ever see. Chiefs won that game by 10 on adjusted scores. The Chiefs had like a 63% success rate, which was the same as Houston against that non-existent Baltimore defense. That's how good KC was last week. And nearly 500 yards, I think they had 470 odd yards. So this Jags defense was getting absolutely cooked. But they won the game because they had the pick 6, things like that. But I just don't think that's, sustainable, liable to continue. So this Seattle offense, which is, as I say, top 5 in a lot of metrics against an overrated Jags defense, I think is a good look to try and get the team total onside.
Okay, Brad playing the team total there. Judy, you're playing the money line. I guess you're agreeing with Brad's assessment on the Jags that 4-1 unsustainable start to the season, particularly last week's result.
Yeah, I mean, I think Brad said it best with the turnovers. Jacksonville, I think, is really kind of propping them up. Ironic considering how many years the Jaguars were on the flip side of that. I don't think necessarily a coincidence, considering Trevor Lawrence's turnover-worthy play style, and they did have a bunch of kind of back-breaking fumbles in the red zone of the Doug Peterson era. Anyway, I think the kind of piece to this also is, and Brad I think alluded to this, but like Sam Darnold I think is a different quarterback, and it's one thing to kind of assume that a player is a statue in time, and I think we all have the tendency to do that, but Sam Darnold, both in how he's playing and even in some of the kind of areas where he previously did not have success, I think is a different quarterback. By that, I mean, like, Sam Darnold is getting rid of the ball. He's like quick passes. That's passes within 2.5 seconds. That is at like 56% right now. His career average is 37%. And I don't think it's a coincidence that like his sack rate has plummeted. His accuracy rate is way higher. And it also sets up, because these things stack on each other, this kind of dominant play action game. Also, it is just like very possible. I mean, we saw this with the Saints a bit last year when they were healthy early in the season, of like Clint Kubiak is a legitimately good offensive coordinator, and seemingly all of the easy buttons, so to speak, the RPO, the play action, the non-shotgun dropbacks, Darnold has been extremely successful. But even still, I think like his play under pressure, I mean, you don't know what to believe. That's kind of the name of the game here. But even just watching Sam Darnold play, right? This is a quarterback who famously was seeing ghosts and was very obviously uncomfortable with the pressure. And if you've just watched him, certainly this past season, he's a lot more comfortable maneuvering a pocket. I mean, we saw this like chiefly on a 4th down score that they had. But this has been true the entire season, and it like bears out in the data. And you have to ask yourself, like, do I believe that this is a 5-week anomaly, or do I believe this is who Sam Darnold is? And I'm willing to believe like Sam Darnold has improved in his ability to evade pressure and his pocket awareness. And in that way, I think the market is, decently caught up to the fact that like the Jaguars are kind of a fraudulent defense. Obviously, Seattle's dealing with a ton of injuries here. But what I don't think it's caught up to is like there's a strong prior on Sam Darnold not being a great quarterback. And I don't think, given the current system and given at least the relative offensive health of Seattle, that like Sam Darnold can very well produce at a top 5 clip. And I don't think the market has yet caught onto that. And for that reason, I'm on Seattle.
Yeah, that offense, you always feel you have a chance, even right to the end of the Bucs game, which was just a bit of a crazy throw from. But yeah, I'm liking Seattle for the guys, both team total and money line, whichever way you want to do it. Brad's other bets here is sort of against Judah's best bet, so we will come to that. Brad, you're playing the London game. This is like the early kickoff in Premier League. You just don't do that. You just don't start with the London game. So why you liking Jets here against the Broncos?
Do I want to click the Jets again? They're like,
it's been a journey.
Yeah.
You've got some right.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's either right or badly wrong.
Yeah, well, yeah, bet them last week. I think bet them, I don't know, 2.24 or something. They went off favourites and got absolutely smashed up again. But yeah, if you just ignored everything about the Jets, you ignored your eyes and you just looked at some of their stats, you would say, oh, this is quite a good team. The Jets are second in early down success rate, and they're 8th on offense, and they're 8th in early down success rate on defense. Now, they're kind of the opposite of the Jags in that they have 0 defensive turnovers through 4 weeks. And I think no team since like 1930 has gone 5 weeks. So surely this week they're due a turnover. But yeah, their core numbers are solid, but they're just giving away turnovers, not getting any turnovers, and then giving up explosives as well. But yeah, so on the matchbook, part of the reason I ended up betting this on the matchbook bet builder, you can bet plus 7.5, like 1.85, which is a fair few ticks better than Pinnacle. So you're getting a favourable price there. And then so I ended up throwing 3 legs in a bet builder here. So Jets plus 7.5. And then Mason Taylor over 35.5 receiving yards. So the idea is early in the season, obviously first game he was a rookie, didn't do much. Then he was kind of banged up for the next 2 weeks. And then the last 2 weeks, his usage has really ramped up. 7 targets and 12 targets, 64 yards, 65 yards, 2 red zone targets in one of them. And his line here is, as I say, 35.5. And especially if you assume that Garrett Wilson is going to be largely taken out of the game by Pat Surtain, then you think that if they're going to throw the ball at all, they're going to have to throw it to Mason Taylor. So I like that one. And then on the other side, if we come back the other way with Troy Franklin over 38.5, this is one, he's much better against man coverage. Franklin, he's getting 28% target share versus man versus 17% against zone, and the Jets play the 8th most man coverage. And as discussed earlier, they love giving up explosive plays, and I suspect they might dial up the deep shot for Franklin here. So if you tie those 3 together, Mason Taylor over, Troy Franklin over, and Jets plus 7.5, you get 5-1. Yes, you
apologies. Yeah, I've done my. That's 2 weeks in a row. I've done. That's not producer Rob's fault. That's my fault. Now 6.0 American odds plus 500, and this is going to be our £10 money back special. So basically, it's going to be bet this £10 new and existing customers, and if it loses, get your money back as a free bet. Which, Brad, happened last week, but only because you did everything right by McMillan getting into the end zone basically with the Panthers.
Yeah, tough beat, bad beat.
Bad beat, all right. We had a few people on that, but they got their money back as a free bet. Consolation. Jude, any thoughts on the London game or that bet builder? Garrett Wilson's probably the talking point from that.
No, I like that actually. And I think just like Bo Nix as a 7.5 point favorite always worries me. Like he's a guy that can absolutely just throw an insane turnover, kind of to Brad's point about the Jets not being able to generate one. And I do imagine Mason Taylor continues to kind of grow in this offense. And obviously this is a Jets defense that by the same token is very vulnerable. There's a reason it's a 7.5 point game. It's because this defense has been atrocious. I don't hate that at all.
Okay, we'll lock that in as the money back bet builder. And Judah, stick with you for Chargers at Miami. From a Chargers point of view, no O-line, no running back now. That's 2 injuries to the running back core. Where do we go from here in terms of trying to see where this Chargers team is right now? Is it going to be a pass heavy offense this weekend?
I mean, it's an interesting question because this is a Chargers team that's been the pass heaviest in the NFL so far. They're now down to their 3rd string running back. And up until Amari Hampton got hurt, like we did not see Hassan Haskins or Vidal get any work, which I think is some signal in kind of how they feel about those running backs. Though obviously, like Miami's rush defense has been atrocious. I don't think it's kind of necessarily a plug and play. Chargers running backs automatically good. Which means I don't think they're necessarily best equipped to take advantage of the Miami ground game. And I think that's especially important when you look at, as you said, the state of the Chargers offensive line, which again, like I think it's been a common talking point, but the degree to which this team is bad, I don't think is fully realized. I mean, Austin Deculus, who's their left tackle right now, has a 27 PFF pass block grade. through 2 games. He's basically allowing pressure on like a third of the dropbacks. You can't sustain offensive success that way. He's just one guy. And it's not as though the rest of this offensive line is healthy and good. And yes, the Miami pass rush has struggled. They have gotten a little bit better over recent weeks. There's still a ton of talent there. Not that's necessarily been realized, but when you're talking about, a just complete line of weak links and the inability to run the ball, like this compounds on each other. And I have some concerns about the Chargers' ability to move the ball on offense. Like they obviously had a terrific kind of first couple drives, I guess, against Washington, but this is atrocious Washington secondary, and some penalties obviously had something to do with that, but they could not do anything against a really bad defense, and that is like they're really down thin on the offensive side. And then defensively, I think the Chargers are the secondary and the kind of defensive coordinatorness, I guess, to coin a phrase, I think does work well for them, but they're still really kind of thin on talent, especially on the defensive line. And in that, like, the Dolphins are most susceptible to teams who can generate some quick pressure, where their offensive line is weakest. And while I don't think the Chargers are the explosive offense the Dolphins are the explosive offense that we saw from 2 to 3 years ago, they've still been totally fine, totally average in their ability to move the ball and sustain drives. And with the state of the current LA defensive line, I think they'll be able to kind of have their way driving the ball and getting the ground game going a bit. So you add it all up, and I think this is a spot where the Chargers offense can really, really sputter, as we saw last week. I mean, they only scored 10 points against Washington. And I think the Miami defense is really, really bad, but I'm not so sure the Chargers are the team to take advantage. Whereas the Dolphins, I still think, can score a consistent, 21, 24, 28 points. And if you hit kind of the tail end of that 28, I think they can win with some margin here.
Okay, yeah. And Brad, you've been the leader of taking on this Chargers team over the last few weeks, given the injuries by and large was the case, although other factors as well. I mean, if QJ catches that ball, Chargers probably get a touchdown. 17-0. Do Washington win the game? I mean, this is obviously being facetious.
I think they do
this week. Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, they battered on the adjusted scores. It was like a clean 10, 12-point win. So, that it goes the other way as well. Early in the game, Chargers went down and kicked a field goal, and then Washington just jumped offside on the field goal, and then they scored a touchdown. So that's 4 points right there. But yeah, I think it was a clean win. I looked long and hard at Miami, +4 here, obviously, but I didn't pull the trigger. One is the Miami secondary is a mess. Like they're on their third string slot corner, and they're signing guys off the street. They were trying out 3 corners who had never played in the NFL, and one of them's going to start at slot corner. And as you guys know, the Chargers do have receiver depth, so I'd be worried about that matchup. And then again, what I think I've mentioned before is I think the way to attack the Chargers is to run at them, and Washington is superb at running the ball, like a top 5 rush offense. Miami is garbage at running the ball. They had like a 16% rush success rate last week against the Panthers, who are also garbage. So I don't think Miami can run them out of this sort of 2 deep shell. So maybe no one scores, but I've not bet the game. I don't know what's going to happen. So.
Okay, maybe one for, I don't hate the details on Miami there. Maybe the way to play that. 4.1 incidentally due to the price on that. So just over 3-1. Best bet time. And we will start with you, Brad, and then finish with the Niners book. So Lions at the Chiefs is the big game of the week. Judah sort of alluded to there where you both did that. Chiefs were obviously deserved probably to win the game against the Jaguars. But I did feel watching the highlights that offense was starting to move in the right direction for the Chiefs and looked like a bit like the old offense of a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think they might be back. I think this is the time. I bet some Chiefs Super Bowl this week. I think it's time to get the Chiefs on side.
Wow.
Yes, as I said, 63% success rate, which was best in the league last week, better than the Texans against the made-up Baltimore defense. 470 odd yards. Xavier Worthy missed practice yesterday, but it does look like it was kind of precautionary for rest reasons. I expect him to play. Now, the Lions come in here, I think, a little bit overrated. So they're going to be about their top 2 corners. And as we've just said, the Chiefs now have a lot of weapons on the outside in Worthy, in Tyquan Thornton, in Hollywood Brown. So I could definitely, and they're throwing deep. So I can definitely see Mahomes getting some joy with the deep ball. And then if you kind of look at who the Lions have beaten, I don't think they've beaten much. It was the Ravens when the defense was banged up, and the Lions scored 40 odd on them. They lost to Green Bay, who have since not looked that good. They beat Cleveland at home. Brilliant, well done. And actually, that game was closer by adjusted scores. And then they beat the Bears at home again when the Bears lost like an entire starting secondary. So the Lions are good, but I've been looking at a lot of power ratings this week saying the Lions are the best team in the league. But to me, the offensive line is still not what it was last year. The secondary is banged up, and they're probably still going to play a lot of man. And if they do, they will get cooked, in my opinion. And it is Goff outdoors with a bit of wind against Pat Mahomes. Like, don't overthink it.
Okay, don't overthink it, Judah.
Yeah, I mean, I said this last week, I think, just like, I was never out on Patrick Mahomes, never out on the Chiefs team. I still think it's true. As we talked about a bunch, like I think the last week in particular was kind of a fluky week, and completely agree with the state of the Lions. Like they did not play an overly impressive game against the Bengals even last week. Even winning by the margin they did. A lot of that was turnover based, which I just don't think you're going to get from Mahomes. All that is to say that like I still think the Chiefs are dominant. They're getting healthy. They're getting better. And I'm not sure. I mean, the Lions can run all over them. That's kind of the other path. But I completely agree. This defense in particular is a kind of shell of its team at full strength, and Mahomes will be able to, I think, mitigate the pass rush that the Lions do present, which is the strength of that team.
Okay, very much looking forward to that game. And the final game, both guys have a different angle of attack into this game. Niners at the Bucks. Judy, you're going with the Bucks. You're laying the points at -3.5 as your best bet on the card. It feels a lifetime ago since the Niners' unbelievable win against the Rams. Obviously, Bucks were in that epic duel with the Seahawks. Is this very much coming at it from the Baker Mayfield point of view that he's still underrated by market, or what's your attack into this game?
I think it's a couple of things. I think the market has kind of Baker rated appropriately. I think it does not have the 49ers defense rated appropriately right now.
Okay.
I mean, since Nick Bosa went down, I'm going to talk about second order effects. You have Nick Bosa when he's commanding so many double teams. It allows guys like Bryce Huff to kind of tee off in one-on-one situations. And with Nick Bosa down, you effectively get a lot worse at two positions because now the attention shifts to Bryce Huff. His production has slowed naturally, and you don't get the kind of dominance from Bosa himself. And you look at kind of the unit overall, and their pressure numbers are way down. Their passing efficiency is way down. This is a team that I think, I mean, we saw it certainly last Thursday night against the Rams, was getting picked apart. And the Rams kind of shot themselves in the foot in not winning that game. But I think this is a really bad 49ers defense right now. And on the flip side of the ball, I think that to begin with, I'm not sure Mac Jones is playing. He does not. And if he is, I don't think he looks perfectly healthy. And certainly assuming a lot of these skill guys are going to miss this week for the Niners as well. And even if not, this is a Bucs team which can generate a ton of quick pressure. They blitz a whole bunch. I trust these pressure disruptions, which are disruptions which are pressure that arrives that a quarterback does not have time to go through his full read. Tampa Bay is doing that nearly 30% of the time. That's second best in the NFL. And on those plays, Mac Jones is one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL, even if it is Mac Jones or hurt Mac Jones. So in that, I don't have confidence that he can kind of overcome this matchup. I don't think this is just plug and play. Oh, Sam Darnold's gonna score 35 points and throw for 300 yards. I think that was more of an outlier game. So out of both those angles, the Mac Jones facing the pressure of Tampa Bay, in addition to the other side of the ball, and this just being really a shell of its 49er self, and I have interest in the Bucs here.
Okay, and Brad, effectively make the opposite case. I mean, for you, with your numbers there, is Mac Jones fit and healthy, ready for this weekend?
I I mean, that would be the question, I guess. If he's not, then you wouldn't want to be on this bet. But I've assumed near to full health, given what we've seen from him recently.
Okay.
Just reading the beat reporters, they've said this again, precautionary. He's just sort of nursing him to Sunday, so that would be one to keep an eye on. What do I think? One, I don't think the Bucks pass rush is that menacing. Like, Brandon Thorne's got them ranked 18th, probably their best pass rusher. Kalijah Kante's out for the year with a torn pec. So I don't think it's the type of defensive line to just destroy a game plan, especially against Shanahan. But my main angle here was thinking these two teams are fairly similar based on the team stats. San Fran's 16th in DVOA on the year. Tampa Bay is worse at 18th. But mainly the angle here was thinking about the script, kind of the first half, where San Francisco, over the last 3 years now, just in the first quarter, San Francisco is 26-16 against the first quarter spread. If you just look at the first half this year, San Fran is 7th in first half success rate on offense, and Tampa Bay is 25th. So they've kind of just taken longer to get going. Maybe they don't have as good a script. And you kind of saw this. You see this in a lot of San Fran games, actually, that they get out the first two drives, the first quarter, the first half, they look electric, and then they kind of run out of ideas and teams come back on them. They're pretty much like the Rams game last week. So I can just kind of see that happening again this week, where you're getting plus 1.5 for two probably equal-ish teams, but obviously one team is much better in the first half. So that was my angle. But again, check the Mac Jones injury report and make your decision on that, I guess.
Gina, final word to you. Any way both these bets win in your game script?
Yeah, sure. I mean, like, it's exactly how Tampa Bay's been winning this entire season. They're not winning with margin. They're coming back and winning those one-score games. So it's certainly possible that the scripted stuff works for San Francisco, and then Tampa Bay kind of gets going after that.
Okay, the lads went 8-3 on 11 bets put up last week on Insider. Best week so far this season. High hopes given the cases there that will be in and around the same. Fingers crossed, but well done to Brad and Judah last week. Inside.matchup.com if you want a full recap, and you can track the guys' bets over the weekend. We'll be back this time next week to preview another week of NFL. But enjoy this Sunday. Enjoy the London game if you're heading, and we'll chat to you next week. Bye-bye.